Hello folks, welcome to Canal Channel Jose. Today we got a video about how to replace the ignition switch cylinder on our 91 to 94 Toyota Tercel. And for this procedure, we found one in the junkyard. We took the cylinder with the key. So that because our original key on this one, it doesn't want to turn that because it's so worn out. So now we found this one. We got it with the actual key for itself. So we got the set. So we're gonna make another replica or another key so we can have two, because our other one for this one, for original one, is so worn out that we can even make another copy. We're gonna show you how you can take that old cylinder in your car out and put the new one in. There's a couple of procedures you gotta do, but it's pretty simple that you can do this at home. And with that, let's get started. So here's our key. We put it in and it don't turn. It's like if it was in the key. So this key is so worn out that we can even, if we make a copy, still gonna not turn the switch. So now what we're gonna be doing is we're gonna replace the cylinder with the key, so that way we can have another key with the cylinder in here, and that way we can make more copies. A new cylinder, and what we're gonna have to do is that this is the key for this cylinder, which sits something like that. So that one is coming out. And for that one to come out, you have to put the key in ACC, and then you're gonna have to press this pin here so you can slide it out from the structure, because some of that stuff is gonna stay there. But for that, we have to remove this plastic so we can have access to this pin. So let's take those plastics out so we can start exposing where we're gonna have to press. So right in here, there's 3 holes and there's 3 Phillips screws that we have to loosen and take off, so this half shell comes out and the upper one can come out. So they both split so we can start exposing the switch. Here is 1, 2, 3. We have to remove all 3 so we can remove the bottom shelf of our plastic so we can start exposing the switch. So now that we have removed the 3 bottom screws, we can just remove our bottom shelf, and then now we can continue with the upper shelf. Now the upper piece has to come out, but before we take this out, we have to remove this one. And for that, we have to remove this switch or knob, take the nut off from there, and then we have to remove this Phillips screw right here and this other Phillips screw right here, so we can start removing this plastic, because the cylinder is right back here, and this one are covering where we need to get to. That we have removed 1, 2 Phillips screws on the upper piece of this plastic, and the nut that holds the switch towards this plastic. Now we can start removing the plastic, and then we probably gonna have to disconnect this hazardous switch from it so it can come out, because our cylinder is gonna be tucked in behind here, and this guy is covering that. So the hazardous lights button is sitting about here. So when you pull that off and you can get in back there, your finger push in the upper piece, like if it's sitting like this, push down and then pull out. So that way this stays there, because it's pretty short. It won't give you that much play. So now that we took our plastic around the cluster, now we can take this upper piece that's covering the switch right here. So we pull it out, and now we have the cylinder right there, or the switch. So we're gonna have to replace the cylinder in there. So to take this cylinder out, what you're gonna need is you're gonna need your actual key, and ours doesn't matter in what position it is, it goes in and out. So now we're gonna have to set it in ACC. Line up the key with ACC, just like so. ACC, line up your key. And once you have done that, we can do one more step before we can start pressing or getting our cylinder out. We can take this 1, 2 Phillips screws out, and this is the switch that when the key is in there, it announces that your key is in the switch. So we're gonna have to take this out because it's making friction with this guy. So we take 1, 2 Phillips screws off so we can separate it, and you'll hear that the speaker is gonna go off. So now we disconnected our regular microphone from the phone, so you can hear that once we start pressing with this guy, and because there's no pressure and it's not in here, it's not pressing the button and it's announcing that your key is in the ignition. We have to pull it away because it might make some friction as this guy is coming out. This goes right in there, so it makes presence when the key is in there. So we took it out, unbolted it so it doesn't create pressure in there, and we can slide this more freely once we start doing the replacement. So now we're looking at our cylinder, and then we have to press right here. There's a pin that we have to press down, and it's from the cylinder. So as soon as we press down, we can pull on the key, but remember that your key has to be in the ACC position for this pin to be able to push down. And then once we do that, we pull the key on ACC position, and the cylinder is going to start sliding out. You don't have to keep on pressing because that pin is going to come out with the cylinder. So all we need to do is just tuck it down so it makes it out of that hole, and it starts sliding on this structure, and it's going to come out. So we do that now. So now here we have our old cylinder, and the key comes out. Even if it's on ACC, it shouldn't come out, but it comes out as you can see. And then the new cylinder is on ACC, and the key won't come out. So now we start sliding our new cylinder right in there, and this is the easiest part. For your info, when you turn the key, only this part turns. This stays solid or stationary. So this only turns this, and this attaches into the inside like if it was another key. Now that we have this set up to ACC again, we can start lining it up and feeding it into our switch. When you're pushing the cylinder in, you're gonna feel that it gets stuck. You might want to jiggle or move the key around a little bit just to line up the internals, and then don't force it, just keep pushing it soft until it clicks into its place. Now that the cylinder's in and it doesn't go anywhere out, you can try it, pull the key out, put it in, go try to start your car. It starts, turn it off, and then now what we have left is to put our sensor on the bottom for the key, so it reads that the key is in the ignition when we try to leave the car and the car is off. So it tells you, hey, your keys are in the ignition. So we start putting everything back together. That switch gets bolted onto that with these little screws. There's two, one on each side. Is bolt onto the cylinder. We can pull our key out. It works. Put it in. It works. So now we can start putting the plastic, the top shelf and the bottom shelf, and then start putting together the around the cluster. So now that we have put this part, this half upper shelf, and then we put the one plastic around the dash or the cluster, we make sure that the emergency lights work. Then we can start lining everything up, and then we can start putting the upper two screws and then the nut on the dimmer. Now we just have the lower piece to be put on, and then we just line everything up, put the three screws, and we should be done with the replacement of this cylinder switch on our 91 to 94 Tercel. So we just want to make something clear when you're screwing this piece of plastic from the bottom into the structure of the steering wheel and the other shelf, that this hole and this hole are for screwing this or securing this to the other half of the shelf on the steering wheel. That one, this one, and this one, which go through this metal piece, are to secure both of those shelves once they're together by these two screws. So these two screws will secure into the steering wheel so they don't rattle or move around. So there's four in total, four screws. There's four screws, two for the shelves and two to the steering wheel. So now we just replace the cylinder. We put everything back together as it should be, and now we have this old cylinder that was giving us trouble out, and this was actually the key so worn out that it just slides out. So now with a new one, we have a key. So we're just gonna make a copy of this key so we can have more copies, and we're gonna have this cylinder for some good time. So now we just replace the cylinder. We didn't have to replace the whole ignition switch. So we replaced the cylinder on the ignition switch. We didn't have to replace the whole ignition switch structure. We just replaced the cylinder where the key is. So this, we found one in the junkyard with the key. Now we put it on, and we're gonna make a copy of this key so that way we can have another key in case we lose this one. Our older cylinder was giving us trouble because the key will get stuck and it wouldn't turn the cylinder. Trying to start the car with the cylinder was giving us problems because it wouldn't actually turn. The key will have to jiggle it around until it will actually go into the first bump and then try to start a car. So we were struggling for a little bit. You don't have to replace the whole structure on the steering wheel just because of this. You can just replace the cylinder. And this is for a 91 to 94 Toyota Tercel. And this procedure will be good as well for a 92 to 94 Toyota Paseo. And with that said, folks, hopefully this video was useful and helpful. And for our friends who are watching our video, haven't subscribed to the channel, please subscribe. If you like the video, give us a thumbs up, share, and we'll see you soon with more videos here in the canal, El Chano Jose.